With all the headlines we've seen lately about bank failures, it's totally normal to ask yourself, hey, is my money actually safe? And yeah, we think a lot about our bank accounts, but what about our brokerage accounts? The place where so many of us are socking away our life savings for the future. Well, that opens up a whole different can of worms. Right, so you've probably heard of the FDIC. They're the ones who protect the cash you have in the bank. But when it comes to your stocks, your bonds, all your other securities, well, there's a different safety net in place. And honestly, it's one that a lot of people misunderstand. So let's get right to the big question. What actually happens to your investments if your brokerage firm fails? Look, it's a scenario nobody wants to think about, but it is so important to consider. What if the firm that's holding all your investments just goes under? And to be clear, we're not talking about your favorite stock taking a nosedive. This is about the company itself, the one you trust with your money, running into major financial trouble. Okay, so here's the good news. You are not on your own if that nightmare scenario happens. There is an organization specifically designed to step in and protect investors just like you in exactly this kind of crisis. So let's meet the hero of our story, the Securities Investor Protection Corporation, or as pretty much everyone calls it, SIPC.
So what is SIPC really? Well, it was created way back in 1970 by an act of Congress. And it's interesting, it's a private, nonprofit group, but it has a federal mandate. And its entire reason for being, its one core mission, is to protect you, the investor, from losing your cash and securities if your brokerage firm goes belly up. This quote just nails what SIPC is all about. It's not insurance for a bad investment decision or a stock market crash. No way. It's all about protecting the custodial function. That's just a fancy way of saying their job is to make absolutely sure that the assets your broker is holding for you actually get back to you. And they have a serious track record. I mean, just look at the numbers here. Since they started, they've helped recover and return over $140 billion to investors, making more than 773,000 investors whole again. And they've done all that by stepping in and overseeing the shutdown of 330 different failed brokerage firms. The bottom line is, this isn't their first rodeo. They've been doing this for a long time.
Okay, so we know SIPC is our financial safety net. But, like any insurance or protection plan, the devil is always in the details. Understanding what is and, just as importantly, what isn't covered is absolutely crucial for every single investor out there.
Let's just clear up the biggest point of confusion right off the bat. SIPC is not the FDIC. They sound similar, but they're totally different. The FDIC is a government agency that insures your cash in a bank account. SIPC, on the other hand, is that private nonprofit that protects your securities and cash held at a brokerage firm. Two different jobs, two different organizations. Both are incredibly important. All right, this right here is probably the most important distinction to understand. SIPC protects you if your assets literally go missing because your firm failed, or even if they were stolen in something like a Ponzi scheme. It can also help if your broker made trades you never approved. But, and this is a big but, it will not protect you if your stock portfolio just drops in value. It won't save you from bad advice, and it doesn't cover things like crypto or Forex trades, because those aren't considered securities. So what is protected? Well, it's the usual suspects: stocks, bonds, treasury securities, even things like money market mutual funds. And this is key. The uninvested cash just sitting in your brokerage account is also covered, but that has its own specific limit of $250,000. Okay, let's game this out. Imagine the worst has happened, and your brokerage is in deep financial trouble. What happens next? How do you get your money back? Well, the whole recovery process unfolds in a few key steps. So SIPC doesn't just watch over these firms day to day. It gets called in when a regulator like the SEC or FINRA raises the red flag. From there, SIPC goes to court to get a trustee appointed to basically unwind the failed firm. And then comes the part you care about. The trustee works to get your assets back, either by transferring your entire account to a new, healthy firm or by processing a direct claim for you. Now, the best case scenario, and this is what SIPC always shoots for, is a quick, seamless transfer of your account. For example, when Lehman Brothers collapsed back in 2008, customer accounts were just moved over to other stable brokerage firms. For most investors, it was pretty painless. This is the goal, because it's the fastest way to get you back in control of your investments with as little disruption as possible. All right, now we get to the really powerful part.
This is where we go beyond just knowing the system exists and learn how to actually use the rules to your advantage to make sure you have the absolute maximum protection possible for your hard-earned money. This is the number everyone's heard of, right? $500,000. That's the total protection SIPC offers for all your securities and cash combined. And remember, within that $500,000, there's that $250K sublimit for cash. But here's the secret that a lot of people miss. That $500,000 number isn't necessarily a hard ceiling. There are ways to get much, much more protection.
And the way you do it boils down to two little words: separate capacity. I know it sounds like some legal jargon, but it's actually a really simple and incredibly powerful concept. Basically, SIPC treats different types of accounts as completely separate people for insurance purposes. So your individual account, your joint account, your IRA, they all get their own bucket of protection. Let's see how this plays out in the real world. Check this out. Imagine you have a regular individual account, a joint account with your spouse, and a traditional IRA, and they're all at the exact same brokerage firm. Because SIPC sees each of these as having a separate capacity, you don't just get one $500,000 limit. You get three, one for each account. So boom, just like that, your total protection at that one firm jumps to $1.5 million. That's a game changer.
So let's boil this all down. If you're going to remember anything from this, make it these key points. First, SIPC protects your property if your broker fails, not if the market falls. Super important. Second, that big $500,000 limit applies per separate capacity. Third, you can and should use different account types, like individual, joint, and IRAs to multiply your coverage. And finally, a simple one. Read your statements. If something looks fishy, report it right away.
And that brings us to one last, very personal question. Now that you know how SIPC works and, more importantly, how to maximize it, take a minute to look at your own investments. Are your accounts actually structured to give you all the protection that you're entitled to? It's a question that is absolutely worth asking.